Hello and welcome again to this amazing course on AWS. In today's course, we'll be covering Route 53. There are various other sections which would be going ahead in details, which is like what is a TTL, what's a CNAME versus alias, what's the difference between these two, health checks, routing policies, simple weighted latency failover, geolocation, multi-value, and third-party domain name registrars and integration. How to just go ahead and, if you have a domain name which is hosted on GoDaddy, how you would go ahead and migrate that particular endpoints to your particular Amazon resources. So it's an interesting topic, but more to learn and more to remember for the examination. So I'll just appreciate if you can just go ahead and keep a note on the things which I explained. I'll be any which ways sharing the video, but I would really request you to just go ahead and pay attention to other sections. So, and this will talk in detail about DNS. So DNS stands for Domain Name System. We all might have studied DNS, but in this, we have a managed DNS all done by AWS. So by managed DNS, I mean earlier, what used to happen was if we have to go ahead and align a weighted policy, we have to go to the command prompt and we have to go ahead and design the architecture of the application to go ahead and take load or go ahead and take load from either IPv4 or IPv6. And the routing was done internally. But right now what happens is it's done on an automatic node. So any of you guys can go ahead and describe or elaborate more on DNS, what it does and how it works? Okay, I'll take it over. So in simple, DNS is just like an address book. So if you have a lots and lots of address and you have a unique identifier which locates that particular address, so the postmaster, you can consider it as postmaster as well, who knows all the house numbers and all the details in detail. And as soon as he sees this address, he routes it to that particular section or goes to that particular house and delivers that particular letter or envelope. So in the similar fashion, DNS is a collection of rules and records which help the clients understand how to reach a server through a URL. URL, you guys know that, it's a uniform resource locator. So, uh, if there's a IP like, 192.168.1.1 and there's a dedicated host name which is associated with that. So the DNS will keep the record of these two, and it would just go ahead and route as soon as there is any kind of request coming in for uh, that particular URL. So it would go ahead and resolve the IP and send it back to the browser. And again, this is how we'll be explaining in the next slide. Also, the most important part is we have different kind of records. So few of them are known as A record. Then it's 4 times A record, which only deals with the host name which are dedicated for IPv6. For A record, it deals with IPv4. For CNAME, it's host name to host name. We'll be, talking in details about this. What is host name to host name? And then going forward, it's host name to AWS resources. So you the examiner can ask you a question to give you a scenario in which there's a IPv6 and that needs to be routed, or there is IPv4 and it needs to be routed, or there is some kind of host name and again it get configured to a host name, and then he can create a scenario around it, and after that he'll ask that which particular record choice which will make whether it would be an alias or a CNAME. Most of the question revolves around CNAME and alias because they are very canonical, but they're different in their own sense because it CNAME only routes it from hostname to hostname, but alias routes it to any AWS resources. One more important thing which I would like to illustrate in this particular slide would be that CNAME is a costly affair. So whenever you use CNAME, and that could just go ahead and resolve host name to host name, whereas alias is free to use, and that can even resolve to a host name to AWS. Now, this is an important question because you guys have recently studied about a lot of things on AWS. Why do we require alias? How and when will we require using alias? Can anyone answer? Guys, if you cannot answer, at least reply yes or no.
Vijay, I don't know.
Okay, no problem. So AWS resources could be anything. So we have already gone through the application load balancing. We have gone through the network load balancing. We have gone through the classic load balancing. So classic load balancer cannot have a dedicated host name. Are you getting my point? It cannot have a URL like www.myurl.com or any goddamn URL which you have purchased and you have associated with any particular. It would always have a URL, something like, uh, like a resolution name of a particular server instance, forward slash some kind of resources, forward slash some kind of hashing, forward slash amazon.com. Are you getting my point? So it would be a lengthy URL, which is uh, which would resolve into a AWS resource. To understand it even much more better, let's move on to the next slide. So what happens is this is a diagram which clearly illustrates how it operates. So if you have made an application server with an IP of 32.45.67.85, so your client, when you use a web browser, it doesn't know what is a 32.45.67.85, and you are hosting your application over here. This application could be anything. So there needs to be a resolver, a person who knows what 32.64.67.85 is, or a service which knows this inside out, and you send a DNS request of myapp.mydomain.com, which is the URL, but this particular URL is containing a particular IP, which is 32.45 and so on. So the request goes to Route 53. It finds out within the directory that okay, my app belongs to which particular IP. It sends back the IP that okay, it's 32.45.67.85, and it checks the A record for this. So in the previous slide we were talking about A record. So it checks the A record for this, send back the feedback, and then this particular web browser takes this request and then routes it to this particular IP, wherein you have hosted myapp.mydomain.com. Now it reaches the application server. The application server constructs that particular page and response, and it sends back. So when it comes in the HTTP format on the web browser, then you can see how it works and what are the content of that particular website. So this is how it works. You guys have any queries?
Vijay, where alias will come into picture here?
I'm sorry?
Yes. Where alias will come into picture over here?
Alias.
Yeah.
Alias is not coming into picture over here because we are considering A record as of now. We'll be talking about alias in the coming, and I'll show you in the hands-on as well.
So here basically Route 53 is uh, is an intermediate between the web browser and application server, right?
Not an intermediate. It's a kind of registry wherein you go and query any. See, you don't have a record of the IPs because, for example, if you go and create another resource of AWS, like you made another website. So until unless you do not dedicate a domain name to that particular IP, no one knows that okay, what is this IP for? Or you can create it on any other, like you can even create it on Azure. But this particular IP was matching towards the domain name. This is the job of a Route 53. It's a managed A record service or quarter A record service or a alias service. So these are the various kinds of service and agility which is being provided by Route 53 so that it can comprehend what this particular domain name is, give you the matching IP or the resource locator, and even go to that particular application directly. So Route 53 can be used for several things. You can buy public domains name onto this. Earlier it was done by registrar. You might have heard the famous names of GoDaddy and other things. So you can even purchase a domain onto the, you can create your own VPCs, and you can have the naming nomenclature, the formats whichever you want. But generally, you have to go ahead and keep the, I'm sorry, AWS resources. You have a dedicated format in which you have to go and keep the AWS resources, and you can give your own application one or application two or whatever application name you want to go ahead and keep. So it would be a unique identifier, and you can even relate it to Route 53, and then it can be resolved. So we'll be doing a hands-on onto this particular thing. Now for this, either you can just watch the demo because I have several domains purchased onto my Route 53. But if you want to do a demo, you have to purchase a domain because then only the A name or the all the services which are internally on Route 53 would be functional. So Route 53 has got its own advantages and features. So one of them is that it does an internal load balancing, and that will be covering in details, which would be based out of various things like latency or failovers or weightage. So these are geo locations and so on, simple policies. So whenever you apply a particular policy onto a particular set of rules onto a particular IP or a resource locator, so it can automatically judge whether if the bulk is going on higher on a IP4, then it can migrate to IPv6 or vice versa. Like there are two IPs which you have dedicated for a site, and you find that it's bulkier on one of the IPs, it can route it to the other on the weightage and so on. It even helps you to go ahead and perform health checks. Like it can keep on pinging, or it has various other services which we'll be talking in detail. So there are various advantages of Route 53 why we use it, and of course it's a managed services, so you never need to go and do anything manually, and not even the coding part is required because you never need to be an expert to go ahead and handle Route 53. Now you pay 50 cents per month for hosted zones. So if you create one hosted zone, you pay 50 cents for that. If you create five, then you multiply it by 50 cents. Sorry, 50 cents, not 50 cents. This is a unique slide wherein we are discussing TTL. Now, TTL we have been talking about since long, and you must have heard it from me. So it stands for time to live. Now, this is a unique concept wherein I would explain what is a TTL and how it works. So imagine, or should we do it after hands-on to our class? What do you recommend? Because there I'll try to go and show you real time. But okay, let me complete this particular slide and then we'll go to the hands-on. So TTL basically allows the time to live for a particular resolver on duration, like, you can have 30 seconds, you can have 60 seconds, you can have 1 hour, you can have 24 hours. That's the highest you can have, 24 hours. Or I think, you can even go for 2 days or 3 days. We'll see it in the drop down. So what happens is, if there is a DNS request of, again, I'll take the same example, myapp.mydomain.com. The Route 53 identifies the IP and sends back to the web browser. Now the web browser has got a capability to go and cache that, okay, it talks to the Route 53 and it came to know that, okay, this is the IP, 23.45.67.85. So it can cache this particular IP within the web browser, and it has got an expiration time like 300 seconds or 24 hours. So if the time to live is 300 seconds, so it will just go and cache it for 300 seconds, and after that it would erase and again seek it from Route 53. But if it's for 24 hours, it will go ahead and keep it within your web browser itself. That, okay, it's for 24 hours. Let's just go ahead and keep it some time. So after that, whenever you request myapp.mydomain.com, it would not go and ask Route 53. Rather than it would directly route it to the application server where you have hosted that particular app. Hope I'm clear till now. So there are advantages and disadvantages of our TTL. If you have a higher TTL, try and understand the traffic on your DNS would be less. In this case, the traffic on Route 53 would be less. But the problem is, if you try and change anything on your app level, like if you have changed the IP, or if you have embedded some new features, or if you want to make some kind of tiny changes onto the URL, so you won't be able to do that, because the resolving of myapp.mydomain.com and the specific IP, which is 32.45.67.85, is already been cached on the local browser of a particular client. So it would take its own sweet time, which is like 24 hours, to exhaust itself and then take another request to Route 53. Then it would reach Route 53, ask that, okay, hey, what's the change? The changes would be like the IP has changed to 44.55.66.77. So then it would register, okay, it has changed. So let me go ahead and update my cache. Then it would go ahead and update the cache with also a duration wherein it would be, now if you want to remove it from 24 hours to 60 minutes, or you want to go ahead and keep it 60 seconds, and so on and on. So this time, next time again, it would go ahead and check the cache that, do you have anything for me? If not, then I'll go ahead and ask Route 53, elsewise I'll just go ahead and take it from the cache. Hope I'm clear, guys, till now.
So here permanent cache is not possible, like from a particular IP, if it is coming and beyond 24 hours, if it understand by cache process.
The question is not clear.
Like you said now, Vijay, ki DNS cache, like once it has particular duration, like 24 hours or 60 seconds,
DNS
it will not.
doesn't have a duration.
So it will not go.
It has a unique feature of TTL, or any goddamn services, hosting services, they go ahead and provide a TTL. That's a technical term.
Mhm.
So a TTL is nothing but a time frequency on which it would go ahead and expire. That particular piece of information would expire. So if you go ahead and cache it onto the local browser, Opera, Firefox, Internet browser, and Chrome, they have their own feature of going ahead and caching the DNS with the TTL. So this TTL would be provided by the service provider. In this case, our service provider is Amazon, and Amazon has got a managed DNS services known as Route 53. Do you understand now?
Yes, Srijay.
Okay. So now enough of ado. Let's just go ahead and put our hands dirty with the lab section. So I'll share my screen towards. Okay, so I'm sharing the entire screen right for the time being. Reason behind, I would like to show you what is the command. You guys are on Windows, I'm on Mac, but I'll try to give you the command for Windows as well. So now I hope that you guys can see my entire screen.
Yes.
Okay. I'll make it a bit larger. So in Mac, we have a command known as dig. And now if I type in any particular URL, for example, google.com, it would revert with all the details whatsoever it has got. Or let me just go ahead and type in something of our own. So it gives you 52 seconds. So this is what we were talking about. And if I make it enlarged, query time was 9 milliseconds. Message received 184. You can find the CNAME. You can find the other details. Okay, so this is the IP. 23.35.32. And it's going to, now you guys are not that, so it's going to Akamai. Akamai is a kind of a CDN, globally used CDN. Like in this case, the first class I have explained you what is a CDN. So just give me one quick moment. I'll come in like 1 minute. Sorry for this, I'm back. So Akamai, as you can see, that it's a CDN. Content delivery networks, which I explained. So you can identify any, or you can see Akamai, what it's using. So you get all the details. You have to remove HTTPS. Reason behind it would not allow you to dig in. So there you go. Root servers. JSON verified. So it's simple. Whenever you go ahead and type in, you will get the IP. You will get other details. For some strange reasons, it's showing it in a different manner because I think I haven't updated my console for bash commands. So I'll just do that after this class. And for Windows, I'm missing on the, you can just Google it. NSLookup. So if you're using a Windows, you can just go ahead and type in NSLookup, and then you can type in the URL without HTTP and forward slash and so on, and you'll get all the details. So can you guys do it in the meanwhile? Just go to the command prompt and try to go ahead and dig in some details. Now we'll go to the purpose of this was to go ahead and show you what is the time to live. In this case, it's very less because they go ahead and keep on updating it very quick. So TTL should be very low for a very dynamic website. If there's any kind of content change immediately, that would be updated. So I'll close this off. Now I'm going to Opera, wherein I have my console ready. So now over here, let's see how Route 53 looks. So right now I'm onto my company URL because I have say about 5 hosted zones. It would be easy for me to illustrate to you guys how the hosting policies and hosting zones are created and so on. And over here I have multiple domains which I have purchased long time back. You can see these are the domains which have already been purchased. Out of this, there are record sets for 3 record sets for these, and these are like default records which are already set. Now, towards your left hand side, you will always find this particular section where you will find a dashboard. Now, it would go ahead and give you the agility to go ahead and manage your DNS. You can see the number of domains which you have registered, the traffic management policies which you have created, and so on. Now, hosted zones, either you can go ahead and create it from here, or you can just go ahead and click it here. These are the health checks which have been aligned. So you can always go ahead and create a health check for your DNS failovers or availability performance. Traffic policies. So this is the traffic policy diagram wherein you can understand, if the weightage is like 90 and 10, then if it's like 10, then where you need to validate, or if it's like a 90, then where you need to just go and route it, and so on. We'll be covering these things in the lab. These are your registered domains. So all of these domains have been registered, and this has been automatically, okay, this is expiring because auto renewal is on, and it has been done long time back. So I've purchased this domains long time back, but since it's auto renewal, so automatically it's renew itself. Pending request, there is no pending request. So generally what happens is, if you are purchasing any domain and you have some of the formalities left, so you'll find it in the pending requests. Now this is a section where in VPCs you can directly route it and so on. So let's not jump into this. This is out of the scope of the exam as well.
Vijay, here you have purchased this DNS, like it is costing for every day. 50 cent.
I'm sorry.
This all DNS which you have purchased 5.1, so it is costing every day,
It's costing on a yearly basis. Like,
yearly basis.
yeah. So if you purchase a new domain, I'll show you how to purchase a new domain. So that would cost you somewhere around $12. So these are the 5 domains, out of which one is working. So let's use something else. So transplantingliver.com. As you can see that web propellant, this particular thing is the red star. If you need to contact, then you have to contact me. But all of these are like hidden. These are the name servers which have been allocated to this. Uh, you can get an authorization code if you want to migrate it from one service to another. I would also like to take you to another hosting service, which is Bluehost. But this is strictly that, if I'm a AWS professional, I should not be explaining, but for explaining purposes, I would take you to some other hosting partners as well, and I would like to show you how it looks. And so this is Bluehost, which is managed services again, but this is a shared servicing. So this is a VPS, and if you click on domains, you'll see some of the domains over here as well. So if I click on one of them, and if I show you that, okay, what all things are there, and so created date and so on. So if, for example, I have verbicare.org or Texan, so let me just quickly show you the website which we have created for one of the partners. So what if I say that, hey, I don't want it to keep it on Bluehost, which is one of the registrar, and I want to migrate it to Route 53, or I just want Route 53 to go and, internally host some of the apps. Like, your website is developed and designed on AWS on EC2, and you want to reroute this particular website, which has been designed on PHP, and you want to route it from AWS, and you don't want to use it uh, from this particular Bluehost or GoDaddy, or for example anything. So Route 53 comes into picture, wherein you define the CNAME. You define the CNAME of the URL and NS records, and then you are good to go. So let's create a hosted zone for the last one, because I don't think I'll be using this much. So domain name would be the same. Okay. these are public and private. Again, private I've explained to you several number of times that if you have to internally route something within the AWS resources, then you will do a private hosting, which would be done from Amazon VPS. If you want to add in some tags, you can, but yeah, we are running short of time, so let's just go ahead and create. So this particular hosting zone has been created. So these are the NS lookup. So you can see that similar NS lookup over here as well. So if you go to name server, so this is Bluehost, and you know this has got this particular IP and this particular IP. But if you want to change it, you can either reroute it from this. You can just go ahead and remove the name server, and you know you can keep these two, and so on and on. So now there are two hosting services. Which I have illustrated. And if you want to configure or test, you can do it from here. Now, these are the things which we were talking about. CNAME, AAA, which would be doing it only for IPv6. A, which would be doing it over IPv4. And these are some more. Let's not get confused. We'll be just sticking to the 4 ones. So now let's go and check on the one which we have created. This is for the demo which I have created. So let's click on this. So this is the place wherein you can just go ahead and remove all your. So if this is the domain which has been purchased on Amazon, or if there's some other domain which has been purchased, so here is the place wherein you'll just go ahead and remove the NS record, and the routing of that particular site would be done from here, or vice versa. So if you put in the DNS of, sorry, the NS records of Bluehost, then it would reroute it to Bluehost. This is the TTL, which is quite high. You can do it in minutes. You can do it, you know, if you click on +5 for a couple of times, so it will be 5-10 minutes. You can do it for hours. You can do it for days. So we have done it very less because, you know, we don't want the bulk on the Route 53 DNS records. Reason behind, we are not consuming this particular IP, you know, IP as of now, or this particular domain as of now. Let me give you a live example. So this is something which is live. This is the A record which has been created. So if you just take this IP and resolve it over here, it should take you to a website, which is for Medanta, as I've told you, powered by WebDocument. So you can see the speed of this particular website, which has been hosted on Amazon. And you can see the speed of another website which has been hosted on some other services. So do you see the difference now?
Yes. So Vijay, here like in Route 53, we have to give only this IP of that application. So that
Yeah, you can mix and match the IP of that particular application to go ahead and play around.
so one thing again to ask over here, like I'm a bit confused. Like if this IP, you said like it directly won't be rectifying like from where it is coming. So Route 53 basically identify that IP and take you to that site.
Yeah.
And can you portray one example over here, like if Route 53 won't be there, like how the things will be happening like without it?
If Route 53 is not there,
Hmm.
and how it would work.
Hmm.
So any site won't work. So what happens is, if I take the example of this one, sorry, not this one.
Also, like if you can show that diagram which you showed initially in Route 53, that would be more helpful to relate the things better.
Sure, I'll show you. Okay, so getting back to the topic, this is trace route, the command which I've run for going ahead and tracing how many hops this particular thing is going. So this is out of the scope, but good to know. So I have observed a malfunctioning of something, which I'll be working on lately. Give me one second. Okay, let's forget it. Let's get back to the topic. So which slide were you talking about? Like you want to go to the previous slide?
Yes.
This one?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what's confusing in this? What should I clear?
Mm, like can you explain like the how the things are happening in real, like once we are in the lab, like uh, you have created one Route 53 and you have given one IP over there, and so how the request is coming, can you explain that part again? I'm confused over here, like it doesn't.
Okay. Sure, I'll do that. So first, let me explain you on a basis of the diagram.
Hmm.
So first, think Route 53 as a postmaster. who knows a particular area very well. And if there's a new address coming in with new people coming in, so he'll update his registrar that, okay, Mr. Srivastav has come to this particular house and Mr. Hari is no more in that particular house. So what if so TTL is generally if Hari has left that particular house and he hasn't informed the postmaster. So if there is any new mail or any new envelope which has come for Mr. Hari, though Mr. Srivastav might be living in that particular house, but the TTL is set for like 60 seconds or like 1 day or 3 days. So if you have set the TTL for 3 days, so Route 53 would not update it. So the postmaster would not come to know that Mr. Hari is no more in that particular house. Mr. Srivastav will come into place and he'll keep on sending the mails to Mr. Srivastav in name of Mr. Hari. And he'll be annoyed that why are you sending these emails to me? Or why are you sending these packages to me? Because I'm Mr. Srivastav, because this is the entire logic of TTL. Now what happens is this postmaster knows the area very well. For example, in New Delhi, we select Dwarka. So he knows this particular area very well. And he has got various number of houses and all the records is intact with this particular postmaster. So if you ask any address that, okay, if I want to go to, Dwarka apartment, or if I want to go to Mahalakshmi apartment and house number 544, who is living in that? So if you are a client or if you are not new person and you're sending it, so you don't take the headache that who is living that in that particular house. You just post that particular thing. So you request this postmaster that, okay, hey, in Dwarkadhish apartment, flat number 504, who is living in there? So it returns you with a resolution that, okay, Mr. Khan is living over there. So yeah, I was finding Mr. Khan. Now you have a different kind of request that I want to know where does Mr. Peter lives in. So you will again go to this postmaster and say that, hey, do you know where Mr. Peter lives in? He'll say that, okay, yes, I know. You have to go to Bombay Heights or Delhi Heights apartment, and you have to go to the flat number 44. So there is where Mr. Peter lives in. Then you'll go to that particular apartment and then say, hey, Mr. Peter, this is a new request for you. Please take this particular, Diwali gift or whatsoever you want to. Then you will communicate. So the web browser, in simple terms, always go and ask Route 53. Now, if every second you go ahead and ask Route 53, you'll go ahead and increase the load on that particular Route 53. So we have defined a time that, time to live. So if it's like 24 hours, then the postmaster would go ahead and sleep for some time. And it won't bulk it. It would be directing it from the cache. Cache is done on web browsers. If it's like 60 seconds, then every 60 seconds, one thing will go to Route 53 asking that, hey, do you know, what is the new thing, which has been done in this particular flat? Then it will reply, there's no, there's the same thing, or there's the same IP, or if the IP has changed, then it would go ahead and update that. Now, hope I am clear.
Yeah, Vijay, much clear now. Just one thing to ask over here, like, so the entry should be fed in Route 53. Like, if Route 53 also denied, like, I don't no response for that IP.
Yeah. So every record you have to go and maintain it in Route 53 under various sections like A record, 4A records, alias, or CNAME. Okay.
So for the first time, if the request is coming, like, in that case, Route 53 would be able to identify.
Yeah. Now, if you see that differences between CNAME and alias, we'll just go ahead and complete it, and after that, I'll take an offline class of how things work. So we are not much far away from that. I'll quickly cover this particular. So CNAME, as I've already told you that, it does a, a host name to another host name. So there's a point reference which can go from app mydomain.com and it can route it to blah blah dot anything dot com. For example, there are two host names within our internal AWS record. And one of them is a load balancer and the other one is a EC2. And you want to go ahead and migrate it internally. So how you are going to do that? So you can use either of these two, wherein but no, I'm so sorry. That would be done only and only through Alias, because Alias can route it through a AWS resource, but CNAME cannot route it through AWS records. Sorry, AWS resources. So what will happen is if you have made a load balancer, for example, or if you have made a network load balancer, what you are going to do in that particular sense. So you don't have a domain over there. You haven't purchased any domain and specified that for load balancing I'm applying this. You must have seen that it comes with a long URL and that has got the resource name, the region, and so on and on. So in this case, you'll always use an alias, and you cannot use a CNAME for that. CNAME can be only migrated for some kind of domain or subdomains. By subdomain, I mean if you have a website. Again, I'll be going back to the example. Let's click any website, or there are a few websites open. So, for example, TuxonCAE.com. If I click on services and if I go to Melworks, so you'll find a / Melworks. So service item Melworks. Now, this is a subdomain, because it has got a breaking and /. So Melworks is a part of Tuxon, but you cannot identify. So if you, for example, if you want to route it from this one to something other before and after, so you'll see that the slug over here would change. And if you want to internally communicate between these two, wherein the domain is not directly required, but two different things are been routing, so you can get it done via our service on Route 53, which is CNAME. But if you are wanting to go ahead and route it to any other Amazon services resource, so at that time you use an alias. Now, these are the various kind of policies which we can set. I'll be going ahead and showing you in class as well. Just give me some time. So these are the different kind of policies. I'll quickly explain you what are the different kind of policies. So if you map the host name to another host name, in simple, there's one host name which I've already shown you, like TuxonCAE.com, and you want to go ahead and route it to another host name, which would be again something like liverpedia.org, and you want to redirect that particular thing. For example, when this kind of things are used, it's like when you have you open up a new company like mycoke.com and you sell something similar to Coke onto that particular website. Now you book in all domains like mycoke.net, mycoke.org, mycoke.this, mycoke.in. So in this case, you want one single website, but you want to go ahead and refer it to all the new domains which has got, because there's no point keeping those domains and letting others use them, because that would be a proprietary issue. So what you'll do is you'll make a nice fancy website for mycoke.com, and you will route it to mycoke.in, mycoke.org, though you are not hosting anything over there, but it would be an internal host name to host name. mapping which you have done. Similarly, there's kind of weightage policy. Now, for example, Route 53 can go ahead and, endpoint could be anything. It could be a EC2 instance, it could be a load balancer. So if you don't want to use load balancer and you want to go ahead and migrate into T2 large, wherein the 10% weightage would go to a T2 medium or T2 micro in some other location. So you can just go ahead and, route those overweighted things to one large instance or a load balancer, and rest you can just go ahead and, do a negligible transfer to say about, basis the weight in terms of percentage. You can just go ahead and, do a health check. You can do a lot of things so that it helps in testing. For example, you have launched something like, Flipkart.com, and you have made a new website with a UI change, but you don't want the user experience of the people to go ahead and, go for a toss. So what you're gonna do is you will just go ahead and route, say about, 50, not 50, 10% of the entire traffic. Like if you're getting 1 billion hits in a day, so you just route, say about, you don't want to hamper that 1 billion hits coming onto your website because they are accustomed to something which is already been doing since a long time now. And you want to go ahead and show them a new website to a very few people, and after that you want to punch in a survey. So what you do is you'll just go ahead and launch a new website on a new instance and just migrate 10% of the volume off to the new website and take a feedback from them. Similarly, if there is any kind of latency, if you're hosting like 3 things onto Singapore region, and if you're hosting something on California region, so what you're going to do is, if anyone is coming from London or if anyone is coming from Sao Paulo or anywhere down in South America, so they'll be routing towards the server which is nearestly available, and it would route it to the nearest server, wherein if anyone is trying to come in from Australia or Singapore or India, it would be routed to something in, Sydney, wherever the region is. So this is called latency, because, if, and how do you find latency? The burning example was something which I did right now on the command prompt, which I'll show you again. So you can just, sorry. So you can just use a command trace route and type in the URL of any website. I don't know why I'm using India time a lot of time. So it starts from my particular IP, goes to Airtel broadband, it goes to another servers. So these are the list of servers which are involved till the time I reach the final destination of the server, and see it's taking so much of time. So the latency is increased. So if the server is hosted somewhere in America, the better architecture is that you go ahead and host it somewhere in India and directly route people from there. Are you getting my point? So it goes to from my ISP, wasting say about 30 some 5 milliseconds, going to 125. Again, it goes to 182. So you can see the number of changes, and these are like hidden. So the DNS is hidden in this particular case. That's why you find asterisks. But these cannot be resolved because the IPs are hidden in this particular case. Let's not waste time on that. Let's move on to the other slide, which is for the health check. There are various kinds of health check which you can define. Check for failure, check for passes, and so on. It's something similar what we have done in application load balancing and so on, wherein the default health check interval would be 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and whatsoever. It can be HTTP, TCP, or HTTPS with validations and so on. There is a dedicated class on CloudWatch, so we'll be covering on a lot onto that. This is failover policy, wherein if anything fails on a primary instance, it directly routes it to the secondary instance, and that can be done on Route 53 itself. So if you are routing any particular IP to one of the EC2 instance and it goes for a toss. So you can immediately, you know, uh, you have a feature of health check. If the health check is not working, so it would immediately do it to the secondary, which can be any place. It can be for DR purposes, and it could be at anywhere in some other region or some other place. Geo location routing policies is something very important, wherein you have to understand that every country has got a pool of IPs which have been circulated, and if there's any kind of latency coming in, or if you want to go ahead and block a person who is coming in from, like, you have launched something for US and you don't want the Russians to go ahead and see it, or if you don't want the Chinese to go ahead and, just have an unwanted bulb. So you can just dedicate it for US and you can just allow the US people to route it. So there are two kind of conditions which is allowed. Either you allow or you disallow or you restrict. So you can go ahead and do a restriction of all the countries which you don't want to show, or you can allow the country which you want to show. So whenever, whatever the condition is easy for you, you just go ahead and use the route, geolocation services for that. This is a very important thing. And examination question would be coming up in the format like, you have launched a particular EC2 services and, blah, blah, 3 lines on that. And then on the 4th line, it would just say that, we have to restrict it for Southeast Pacific Asia and restrict the rest of the world to not see it. Or, a country specific that, it should be for Ireland and UK. So there's a methodology in which you can just go and select it for Ireland and United Kingdom. And that would help you do that. So only 3 slides are left, and after that we'll go offline and I'll show you manually how to go ahead and configure most of the things. Give me a quick moment. Let me just go ahead and, multi-value routing policies. This is though out of the scope because this is a bit complex, wherein, let's not dedicate time onto this. Domain registrar is not equal to DNS. This is some very important topic. So domain registrars are like GoDaddy, Google Domain, Bluehost, which I have shown you. So this is not equal to DNS because DNS has got multiple layer of facilities which are, you can. So a registrar is just like, a registrar in the college. So if you have to migrate from one college to another college, it gives you a no objection certificate, and then you have to produce that no objection certificate to the University of Delhi, and you are going to University of Mumbai. So, you have to just go ahead and do the FNF over here and take everything, every no objection certificate and your credentials to Mumbai University, and then you have to, apply over there, and they'll see that, they'll validate it, and then they'll allow that. Okay. So this is the only part of the registrar, but DNS does a lot. It maintains records of, IP and everything. So, never confuse yourself with domain registrar and DNS. Now this is the last slide. So AWS is also a registrar now. Earlier it was not. What I mean by that is you can also purchase, URLs, not URL, domain names from there, and you can create hosting zones over there. So this is just like a summary of what are things we have covered. We have covered different kind of policies. We have covered if you want to host in some, you have to change the NS record of a third-party website from somewhere else. So if you want to host Bluehost domain only from your AWS resources, so you need to just go ahead and change the NS records over there, and you'll just be able to go ahead and do that. By this, we'll finish our Route 53 section. I'm gonna pause the recording over here. Then we'll go ahead and have a